Actually, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that yad gatva nanivartante tadhama paramam mama. Krishna's assurance is, once we go back to Godhead, again we will not come back to this material world. How do we understand this? Because we have fallen down from the spiritual world only. Now we are going back to Godhead. So again the same thing can happen. What is going to prevent that? The fact is that the example is given just like, suppose a child wants to put its hand in fire. The child does not know that the fire will burn. Now the father, he will tell the child, "Arey, my dear child, don't put your hand in the fire. If you put your hand in the fire, your hand will get burnt. Therefore, don't put your hand in the fire." The child says, "No, no, no, Papa, I want to put my hand." "No, my dear, it will burn you. It will be very painful." "No, no, I want to put my hand." Then the child starts crying, throwing a tantrum. Finally, the father will say, "Okay, go put your hand. Then only you will learn." Then the child goes, puts his hand in the fire. It will burn. And he starts crying and howling. Then you put burnal, put so many things, and then the hand is in bandage. Now the child, as a 5-year-old child, this has happened with the child. Now imagine the child is now a grown-up man. Now, no matter how old he grows, that memory of the burning sensation when we put our hand in fire will remain with him for throughout his life. Therefore, he will never put his hand again in fire, because he has learned, once having put his hand in fire, nobody will be fool enough to go and again put his hand in fire. Once it is burnt, for life he will remember. Burning is not a small thing, my dear. The pain of burning, I know. In my childhood, I put my hand in fire. I will never go near fire. This will be our reaction. In a similar way, we all have put our hand into the fire of coming into this material world. Now, once we understand the pain of taking repeated birth and death, and undergoing the distresses of birth, death, disease, and old age within this material world, and having reformed ourselves, we go back to Godhead. This bitter experience of this material world will always remain with us. We may not remember the exact details of all the millions of births we have taken in this material world. That may not be required also. Just that experience will remain, that very bitter experience. I don't want to remember that very painful thing. I'll never go back to that material world. This is the feeling that a devotee will possess when he goes back to Godhead. And therefore, he will, having learned that lesson, Krishna will always give him that memory. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, "Matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha." Knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness all come from Krishna only. Actually, remembrance is not something which is in our control, isn't it? Many times we forget some things, and then we try very hard to remember, we are not able to remember. Sometimes we keep our key somewhere, our mobile somewhere, then we start searching, where is it, where is it, where is it? We won't be able to recollect it all. And then with great difficulty we keep searching, suddenly we'll find it in the most unlikely places. Like one day I was searching something on the mobile, then with the mobile in the hand, some thought came to my mind. I started thinking. Then I said, "Okay, I have to call this person." Then I'm searching my mobile. Where is my mobile? Where is my mobile? It's in my hand only. I'm searching. Where is my? Then suddenly I realized, my mobile is in my hand. So, like this, sometimes in the most obvious places, some object will be kept, but we don't realize it is there. We forget. And then after searching for a long time, then we come across it. That means remembering whatever activities have happened in the past is not in our control. We forget some things, and sometimes we won't put any effort to remember something. Something will suddenly come up in our mind. Some memory will come up. Just like all of you would have experienced. All of you will study very hard for the examination, and very nicely you will revise, you will make notes, memorize everything. When you go and sit in the examination hall, you will forget that. That very thing only you will forget what question has come. You will be scratching your head. What is it? Something, it was there. Then you try, you know, we are not able to remember. Finally, you fold the exam answer paper, give it back, and the moment you step out of the exam hall, immediately memory will go, "Oh, this is the formula. Oh my God, I forgot what to do." So when you are trying to remember, that formula did not come to your mind, and when you give up the exam sheet and came out of the examination hall, when it is no more useful for you, suddenly that memory is coming again. That means memory and forgetfulness are not in our control. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that he, as the Paramatma, is the person who gives us memory and forgetfulness. Mattaha smritir apohanam and jnanam, knowledge. All three things come from Krishna. Therefore, in the spiritual world, when we go back, Krishna will always ensure that we never forget the bitter experience of conditional life in this material world. And therefore, once we go back to the spiritual world, because we have learned the true nature of the material life, we will never aspire to again come back to this material world. And therefore, we will always be protected, although that free will is always there with us, that we may choose to come back to this material world. But then, when we are in knowledge, we know this is the kind of bitter world that this material world is. We will never become again enamored by the material qualities, three modes of material nature, and we will never fall down again from this spiritual world. That is the understanding.